Chase Utley. Chase Utley was an all-star second baseman, known for his aggressive style of play throughout his 16-year career with the Phillies and Dodgers. Game 2 of the 2015 NLDS between the Dodgers and Mets became infamous when Utley attempted a takeout slide at second base. He slid late and hard into Mets shortstop Ruben Tejada, never even touching second base while clearly targeting the fielder rather than the bag. The collision broke Tejada's leg and ended his season. Tejada had a few minor league contracts after this, but he never made his way back to the majors. The slide was deemed legal under existing rules, which sparked massive outrage from fans, players, and media. And despite the injury, Utley wasn't even called out on the play initially. This caused MLB to introduce Rule 6.01J, requiring runners to make a bona fide slide, meaning they must slide directly toward the base, be able to reach it with their hand or foot, and not deviate to target the fielder. Violations now result in automatic double plays. This rule has since been known as the Utley Slide Rule. Buster Posey. Buster Posey was the Giants' all-star catcher and 2010 Rookie of the Year, considered one of the best young catchers in baseball. On May 25, 2011, Marlins outfielder Scott Cousins barreled into Posey at home plate during a close play. Posey wasn't even blocking the plate and was in a defenseless position when Cousins collided shoulder first into him, breaking Posey's fibula and tearing ligaments in his ankle. The injury cost Posey the entire 2011 season. Despite the serious injury, Posey would come back in 2012 and win the NL MVP award, and he still had a 12-season career with 6 All-Star appearances. The collision reignited debates about unnecessary violence in baseball and whether these old-school plays had a place in the modern game. MLB implemented Rule 601I, prohibiting runners from deviating from their path to initiate contact with catchers, and catchers can only block the plate if they actually have possession of the ball. This rule protects both catchers and runners from dangerous collisions. This rule is called the Buster Posey Rule. Ray Chapman and Carl Mays. On August 16, 1920, the Cleveland Indians were playing a standard game against the New York Yankees, with Indians shortstop Ray Chapman coming up to bat against pitcher Carl Mays. Tragically, Chapman was killed after being hit by a pitch from Mays with a dirty, scuffed baseball. The ball was difficult to see due to tobacco stains, scuff marks, and general wear, contributing to the accident. Mays had done nothing wrong either. This was the dead ball era, where manipulating the ball was expected before every pitch. But Chapman's death shocked the baseball world and highlighted the dangers of playing with damaged, dirty baseballs that were hard for batters to track. After this incident, umpires became required to regularly replace dirty or damaged baseballs with clean ones. This marked the beginning of the live ball era and dramatically improved player safety. Pat Bandy. Pat Bandy was one of the most unique pitchers of his era, being one of the last few switch pitchers in MLB history, using both his left and right arms to pitch throughout his 5-season career. Bandy would alternate which arm he would pitch with depending on who was batting. Lefties would be pitched to with his left arm and righties with his right. This was to help him try and get a favorable matchup against the batters he was facing. But it came to an end when Bandy faced a switch hitter. Both players kept switching sides in an attempt to gain a favorable matchup, creating an endless standoff where neither would commit to a side. MLB then created the Bandy rule in 2008, which requires pitchers to declare which hand they'll throw with before each at-bat begins, and they cannot switch until the batter is retired, the batter becomes a runner, the inning ends, the batter is substituted for by a pinch hitter, or the pitcher incurs an injury. If you enjoy these baseball explainer videos, consider leaving a like and subscribing. It really helps me out. Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani is a once-in-a-generation talent who excels as both a pitcher and hitter, currently with a career .282 batting average and 243 home runs, while also maintaining a career ERA of .301. Although he hasn't pitched since 2023. But modern MLB roster rules didn't account for players who could effectively play both positions. The Angels had to navigate around losing their designated hitter spot every time Ohtani left the mound as a pitcher. Ohtani's unique skills exposed flaws in MLB's roster construction rules that made it difficult for teams to maximize two-way players. This led to MLB creating an official two-way player designation in 2020, and in 2022 implemented the Ohtani rule, allowing him to remain in games as the designated hitter even after his pitching duties end. As of 2025, Ohtani is still recovering from his surgery, but it looks like he'll be making his starts pitching again before the end of the season. Gaylord Perry. Gaylord Perry was a Hall of Fame pitcher who won 314 games over 22 seasons, with many career accolades, including 2 Cy Young Awards and 5 All-Star appearances. But Perry was infamous for his alleged cheating throughout his career. Perry built his entire career reputation around doctoring baseballs with foreign substances. Spitballs, Vaseline, pine tar, you name it. He even wrote about it openly in his autobiography, Me and the Spitter, admitting to decades of cheating. Despite being widely suspected throughout his career, he was only ejected for doctoring pitches one time during his career, in a game against the Boston Red Sox. Perry became the poster child for MLB's lax enforcement of foreign substance rules. His brazen admissions made the league look foolish for not catching him. This caused MLB to strengthen Rule 602, banning foreign substances more strictly and giving umpires greater authority to inspect both baseballs and pitchers. This laid the groundwork for the modern sticky stuff crackdowns we see today. Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds, MLB's all-time home run king, was so feared at the plate that teams would rather give him first base than risk him hitting another bomb. Opponents intentionally walked Bonds an MLB record 688 times during his career, including 120 times in 2004 alone. Teams would sometimes even walk him with the bases loaded, giving up a free run rather than risk a grand slam. These endless intentional walks killed the pace and offensive rhythm of games. Fans grew frustrated watching Bonds get walked repeatedly, especially in crucial situations. The spectacle became more about avoiding Bonds than actually playing baseball. Beginning in 2017, MLB made a rule allowing managers to signal for an intentional walk without throwing any pitches. This speeds up games and eliminates the unnecessary formality of lobbing 4 balls outside the strike zone. While this rule was added after Bonds retired, it's clear that he was a big reason for this change. Mike Hargrove. Mike Hargrove was an all-star first baseman with a career batting average of 290, along with over 1,600 hits throughout his career. But those infamous at-bats earned him the nickname the Human Rain Delay because of his elaborate pre-pitch routine. Between every single pitch, Hargrove would step outside of the batter's box and go through an extensive ritual, adjusting his helmet, then his glove, then the sleeves on his uniform, and then he would finish it off by wiping his hands on his pants. And sometimes he would do all of this twice before stepping back into the box. Fans and players understandably grew increasingly frustrated with the incredibly slow pace of games when Hargrove was batting. MLB then implemented a rule requiring batters to keep 1 foot in the batter's box between pitches unless specific exceptions apply. This was designed to speed up at-bats and improve game flow. Jose Canseco. Jose Canseco was a controversial slugger, admitting to steroid usage in his prime. But there's something else he's famous for that's unrelated: a head-assisted home run. On May 26, 1993, a routine fly ball hit Canseco in the head and bounced over the outfield wall for a home run. The play left some fans confused about the official ruling. Ultimately, the difference between this being a home run versus a ground rule double came down to the fact that a ground rule double must bounce off the ground first. This ball never bounced off the ground, only Canseco's head. While no rule change was needed, MLB clarified that if a fair ball deflects off any fielder and goes over the fence in fair territory, it counts as a home run, regardless of how ridiculous it looks. Doc Ellis. Doc Ellis was a talented pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates, known mainly for being a part of the teams that won 5 NL East titles from 1970 to 1975. But Ellis is also famous for something else. Ellis claimed he threw a no-hitter in 1970 while under the influence of LSD. While this story has been disputed, Ellis was open about his drug use during his playing career, during a time when MLB had no testing policies. His admissions, along with growing drug problems throughout sports, added public pressure for leagues to address substance abuse. Ellis's case helped lead to MLB's eventual comprehensive drug testing protocols that were implemented from the 1980s through 2000s, including regular substance screenings for all players. But it's also clear that the bigger contributing issue was the rampant use of steroids by famous players like Barry Bonds, Sammy Sosa, and Mark McGwire. Michael Morse. Michael Morse was a power-hitting outfielder slash first baseman who was playing for the Washington Nationals when he had his infamous Grand Slam moment. On September 29, 2012, Morse hit what appeared to be a Grand Slam versus the Cardinals, but it was initially ruled a single due to an umpire error. After replay review, the call was reversed, but Morse had to go back to home plate and rerun the bases in their entirety, creating an absurd scene that went viral, including a moment of him reenacting his swing on the pitch. The bizarre reenactment highlighted flaws in the replay system and how corrected calls should be handled. MLB clarified replay rules to allow umpires to correct scoring plays without requiring unnecessary and awkward base path reenactments. Johnny Quato. Johnny Quato was an all-star pitcher, best known for his time on the Kansas City Royals team that would win the 2015 World Series. Quato had a unique pitching style and would often use unusual tempo, delivering pitches without a full windup and sometimes before batters were properly set in the box. While effective, opponents and managers complained this was both unfair and potentially dangerous. Batters argued they couldn't properly prepare for pitches, creating safety concerns and competitive disadvantages. MLB emphasized enforcement of illegal quick pitch rules. If the batter isn't reasonably set, the pitch is automatically called a ball or a balk with runners on base. Sam Fuld. Sam Fuld was an outfielder for multiple teams during his 8-season career, including the Cubs and the Rays. But the rule change that was brought about in part because of him actually has almost nothing to do with him specifically. In June 2011, in a game against the Brewers, Rays manager Joe Maddon was going to send reliever Joel Peralta to close out their 5-1 lead. After a home run from Evan Longoria to make the score 8-1, Maddon decided to send out reliever Cesar Ramos instead next inning. The only problem is Ramos hadn't been warming up, so Sam Fuld was sent to the mound. Fuld did a whole warm-up routine on the mound purely to buy time for Ramos, who was finishing up in the bullpen. Once Ramos was done, Fuld was pulled without having thrown a single pitch. This caused the MLB to amend Rule 305 to prohibit a manager from sending his current pitcher out to warm up with no intention of having him pitch because a relief pitcher is not ready to enter the game. George Brett. George Brett was a Hall of Fame third baseman and one of Kansas City's greatest players, playing his entire 21-season career there and ending with a career slash line of 305, 369, and 487. But Brett's pine tar incident is one that is remembered to this day. On July 24th, 1983, Brett hit a go-ahead home run in the 9th inning against the Yankees that was nullified because pine tar on his bat extended beyond the legal 18-inch limit. Brett was deemed to be out, ending the game with the Royals instead losing to the Yankees, and he then had a legendary meltdown, charging after umpire Tim McClelland, forcing Royals manager Dick Howser to physically restrain him. The controversy overshadowed the actual game and made the pine tar rule seem overly punitive for what was essentially an equipment violation. Although the Royals immediately challenged the ruling, it took until August 18th, after 2 court decisions, before the game was replayed from the 9th inning, with the Royals eventually winning 5-4. This caused MLB to modify Rule 302C. Excessive pine tar beyond 18 inches doesn't nullify the result of the play. The bat can be removed from the game, but any hits or runs stand. Germany Schaefer. Germany Schaefer was well known as both a trickster and very strategic player during the early days of professional baseball. With runners on first and third, Schaefer wanted to attempt a double steal, where the runner heading from first would run for second, hoping to draw a throw from the catcher as the runner on third tried to steal home. In an attempt to confuse the defense and set up this double steal, Schaefer ran backward from second base to first base, essentially stealing first to reset the situation. While clever, this backward base running created confusion and went against the fundamental concept of advancing around the bases, as well as making a travesty of the game in MLB's terms. MLB then implemented Rule 509B10 in 1920, prohibiting base runners from deliberately retreating to a previous base after having possession of a further one, making reverse steals illegal.